What's the juiciest rumor at your school that turned out to be 100% true? New kid comes to high school. Has a funny accent because his parents were missionaries, traveling all over the world. He was actually kind of cool. Spoke at least 4 different languages: English, Spanish, Russian and Mandarin. He was super polite and everyone liked him. Of course he had haters, mainly the so-called bullies, a concept he never understood. Rumor began that he was well versed in many forms of martial arts. He never denied or admitted to them. One of the bullies decided to find out. He was much bigger than the new kid. New kid did everything in his power to not escalate the fight. Even took a punch from said bully. Well, guess the rumor was true. Not only did the new kid beat his butt, the bully crap himself. Most awesome thing I ever saw in high school. Not only did the kid beat his butt, the bully crap himself. Thank you. This has made it onto my list of favorite things to look at when I am old. Resource officer was a child molester and then murdered his wife after he was fired. He fled and they still haven't found him over 10 years later. He's on Marshall's top 15 most wanted list. His name was Dan Hears and his mother thinks he's dead. The computer tech teacher got caught having sex with a student. He was put on suspension while the investigation was conducted. He killed himself by running his car into a tree. The science teacher was a pedophile. Some kid found Viagra in his desk and he was put in admin leave when they found a used condom in his trash after the search. Then kids came forward. Was not pretty. Pretty crappy pedophile if he needed Viagra to get it up. 2 teachers that were married to each other were sleeping with students. The husband was the first to do it and the wife found out and slept with some of her students as revenge. Also, the resource officer was sleeping with some of the 18-year-old seniors. All got confirmed when they were fired for it. Well, the teachers got fired. The officer got moved to bicycle patrol. I think he's ridden enough. This one girl would make those colorful friendship bracelets made out of needlepoint floss for every guy she gave a BJ to. There were lots of bracelets. Like some kind of club or something. The art teacher was sleeping with both the history teacher and Ray teacher. She was married to the chemistry teacher who she previously had an affair with while married to the woodwork teacher. I believe she married the Ray teacher sometime after I left school. This is better than a Mexican soap opera. Rumor had it that a teacher was having sex with some of his students that wanted higher grades. No one believed it to be true because he was married and just had his 3rd baby. 100% true and all the students were proud of it. He's still in jail 5 years later. An abortion using a coat hanger where a student bled to death. It happened years before I attended the school and was the basis of the ghost sightings near the bathroom. Man, this is disturbing as heck. That there is an underground bunker from the Cold War era below the school. Not only is it there, but it turns out you can access it from the pay changing room through a secret trapdoor. Some kid in my year grade found nude pictures of his art teacher, female, on a school camera when he went to take pictures of his painting. Didn't have a clue what to do about it, so just started telling people and no one believed him. Couple days later he's pulled out of class and had to see the school headmaster about it. They found the camera and the photos and somehow the teacher was unaware whatsoever. Thing is, the teacher didn't get any reprimands but the kid got excluded a couple of days for spreading true rumors about the teacher. But doesn't seem fair. In middle school, a rumor floated around pretty much most of the school that the principal had a consistent record of sexual assault. And what I freaking know. He got arrested for sexual assault when I was a freshman in high school. It was all over the news and everything. The government politics teacher at my school quietly retired because it was sort of an open secret that the girls could get a better grade in his class by wearing low-cut shirts. I don't know if he ever did anything, though. A younger male teacher, upper 20s, newlywed, was having sex in his classroom during lunch with an older female teacher, married in her mid-40s. A student caught them and filmed them, pretty much blackmailed them into turning themselves in. At least he was freaking a teacher and not a student. We had a Spanish teacher who would keep giving random financial business advice during classes. One day he tabbed over to his stock trading homepage and accidentally revealed that he was a millionaire. Rumors about his past started circulating. Around graduation, some students found old newspaper articles confirming that he was a former dealer who had spent time in jail. Was a seriously cool guy, actually. That would be a good Breaking Bad spin-off. Two sports teachers were having an affair with each other, even though one of their spouses was also a sports teacher in the same school using the same dinky office. Rumor was confirmed when the two dudes had a fist fight in the basketball court. I feel like every pay teacher I ever had was plowing another member of staff. That the school district security guard would let you get away with anything if you gave him some coke. He later got caught and fired for it. If anyone else went there, it was at Desert Juiciest in Tucson. The wood tech teacher was married to the French teacher. They had a child. The PE teacher fricked the French teacher. The wood tech teacher went into the PE department and threatened to beat the crap out of the PE teacher with a cricket bat. I believe this was during a normal school day, but it was before my year started there. A second PE teacher got involved and stopped it, so everyone kept their jobs. Later on, the wood tech teacher married the geography teacher and they had 2 kids, whilst a third PE teacher cheated on her husband with the second PE teacher, and every Wednesday an hour before lunch I would see PE teachers 2 and 3 through the window of my science classroom. They would get in a car and leave together. Sometimes I would see them come back and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on, and later they became a couple that was known to students. TL. DR. 6 teachers, 3 pregnancies, 2 affairs, 1 angry husband with a cricket bat, and a partridge in a pear tree. Teacher from my high school. Girls were creeped out by him and constantly reported him for making them uncomfortable. He was quite obese, barely hung to knees, so the school and other students wrongly assumed these girls were being rude. 6 years later he's in prison after being caught with child pee on his computer, alongside upskirt photos of girls from my school. A girl blew the whole basketball team after a game. Don't know the exact details. I just know the girl left and 3 kids got expelled. The rumor was that a boys gym teacher and a senior girl in my class were involved. They got married when we graduated. He was at least 10 years older than she was. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly but always place the girls in the front of the classroom. Did the whole lingering stare thing, and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did, but he was married and has a baby, so no one really suspected him of anything other than being creepy. Fast forward about 7 years, the teacher ended up being a sex offender. He had an ongoing relationship with a girl that began when she was 13. Based on what I could see from the various news articles, she was either in my year or the year before me. The police came to arrest him in the middle of his class, cuffed him in front of his students, and then had him walk throughout campus in cuffs to get to their car. I don't feel bad for him at all, but I can't imagine how his wife and son must feel. The same exact thing happened at my school, except he was an art teacher. What is wrong with the world? Probably not the juiciest thing, but the one I remember because of how I found out. A few of our high school libraries' walls were weird, sort of a lowercase b shape, so there was this empty space behind the bookshelves up against the walls. Tunnels, basically. Word was, students were fricking in there. I worked in the library, had to move the shelves, clean the tunnels, found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind, the condoms weren't the worst thing, really. The leftover food debris, and there was worse. Stuff like chicken bones. You know you've hit rock bottom when you'll give a blowy for a piece of fried chicken. Either that, or that's some awfully damned good chicken. Also, some kid said he was going to kill himself a bunch of times over getting worse grades than his little brother, and finally one day, he jumped in front of a train on the tracks right behind the school. I heard some details of what kids saw and it was about as horrifying as you'd think. The cheerleading team was doing coke off the toilet seats. There was a rumor that our female English teacher was sleeping with the starting QB, and that her youngest child was not her husband's, but the QB's. She was caught sleeping with a different one of her students years later, and it is now known she has slept with a number of former students including the QB. Now people really think her youngest kid isn't her husband's. When I was in middle school, the big joke rumor was that two teachers were banging. Years later everyone finds out that not only were they having an affair outside of their respective marriages, but that the male teacher was cheating on both women with a man. The female teacher moved away and ended her own life. The entire situation was unbelievably messy. The male principal got caught fricking the male history teacher in his office. Both were married. Their husbands must have been furious. There was a girl who wanted to lose her virginity, so she offered a guy a phone top up to take her virginity, and he did it. The physics teacher was sexting and sleeping with one of his students, not sure if she was 18 or not at the time. Although honestly, no one was surprised. He was a little too friendly toward the girls and changed his pants in the back of the classroom once. He ended up leaving for personal reasons over Thanksgiving break, but of course it got out. Sadly, his wife was in her third trimester, which probably didn't make it any easier for her to find out her husband was sleeping with a high school student. Changed his pants in the back of the classroom once. Don't look. Nobody look. That within the first 2 weeks of the school starting and everyone meeting each other, one of the girls had a threesome with two guys who didn't really get along. So, she convinced them to make love, not war. We had a study hall teacher who was a huge hardus with a handlebar mustache who was retired Navy. Turned out he was a hardcore gay BDSM star in the early 2000s. He got fired even though it was long before his time teaching. I ended up writing a letter to the administration, county, and their attorneys, but he stayed fired. I guess it would be hard to command respect from students when googling his P name immediately brought up a pic of his balls bound in leather. We had a study hall teacher who was a huge hardus with a handlebar mustache who was retired Navy. Mything some gay start story about to start. Turned out he was a hardcore gay BDSM star in the early 2000s. And there we go. Our math teacher in high school had a student teacher she was helping train to take over for her when she went on maternity leave. The student teacher was maybe 20-21 and a fairly attractive young woman. So naturally all the guys in the class had a crush on her. One guy in particular was a super senior and 18-19. He flirted with her non-stop and she would act super embarrassed and blush and in a non-committal way tell him to knock it off. I'm sure you see where this is going. Well, towards the end of the semester he was bragging about going on a date with her and how they went to the movies, then he went back to her place and they had sex. We all thought he was full of crap. But the rumor got around the school and of course the teachers and faculty found out. Then one day she is just gone. And we had substitute teachers for the rest of the semester. We all knew what happened. Looking back, it's kind of a shame that she probably wrecked her future teaching career of him. Yeah, teachers shouldn't start that young with people they were allowed to bang a few weeks ago. A girl got caught giving her boyfriend a BJ in one of the stairwells of my high school. The government teacher, one of the most ultra-religious and pure-hearted individuals on earth, was the one who caught them. Ended up in a science class with a girl. She gave no fricks that she got caught and took her legend status like a champ. Still makes me laugh over a decade later. I'm blown away that she didn't give any fricks. Very attractive married with kids pay teacher was fricking very attractive married with kid English teacher. We all thought they were just very flirty people. But lol nope. Full on affair going on. I call bulls. I've never seen a remotely attractive pay teacher. The music teacher in my high school was rumored to have been fired for sending dong pics to a female student. There had been subs taking his place for nearly a month. The principal said he was too ill to come into work, and eventually another rumor that he had cancer started spreading around. He had been bald longer than anyone could remember. If you asked any of the school staff what was going on, they would just say he's just sick right now. We don't know when he'll be returning. One day in my physics class, everyone in the class pestered the teacher for the whole period until he finally gave in. Some people were still trying to argue the cancer story. One student asked the physics teacher did he send nudes to that girl, and he finally said, "That thing that you think happened, it happened." The student said, "So he did," and the teacher simply nodded his head yes. A month or so later the music teacher showed up in school. Everyone was running up to him in the hallway asking what happened. He dodged every question and the last thing I heard him say was, "I'm just here to get some things." He didn't teach his class that day and I never saw him again. We had a running joke around my school for years. If someone asked could you insert question here, most people would reply I'll do it for a bag of Doritos. This was a school-wide inside joke because a girl was caught sucking this guy's dong in the bathroom. Some authority figure had the bright idea of asking why the frisky teen would allow this. She said she would do it for $3 and a bag of Doritos. No one ever saw the girl again, but the guy became a legend. You could say she jacked up her prices since then. That there was a video of a girl in my year fingering herself for a pack of cigarettes. The rumor went around for about a week before everyone in my year had it on their phone. I want to say this was 9-10 years ago. The school ended up having assemblies about it and said that if anyone was caught with it on their phones, they'd press charges for child pornography. We were 14/15 at the time. I think a couple of kids actually did get charged for it, though I think it got sealed once they turned 18. The poor girl in the video ended up changing schools more than once because the kids at the first school she changed to ended up getting hold of the video and it went round that school too. The priest of the church that ran my Catholic elementary school got caught selling drugs in the park. My parents quickly decided public school was suddenly a good idea. Then in high school the senior directing our school play got caught fricking one of the freshman actresses in Dracula's coffin in the theater loft. I'm glad to hear of a priest getting arrested for drugs rather than pedophilia. Everyone thought the cheer coach was pregnant. She left soon and denied it. IDK how long later, it comes to light she was. But it gets weird. This is her story. She didn't know she was pregnant. Had a stillborn baby in her house. This caused her to have a mental breakdown. She tore arms and legs off the baby. Then put the body in a tire in her yard and burned it. Cops and firemen get called for a fire in town. Due to how badly the body was burned, they were unable to prove if the baby had taken any breaths or if it was born dead as she claimed. Everyone thought she was pregnant, but sadly we were all right. I think social services took her kids. She had kids before this one, and she moved out of town. What in the actual frick? That our priest was a weirdo child molester. People who didn't know him thought he was a little strange and that he would run through town in pink speedos. Pedos in speedos. The married teacher and married principal got caught fricking in a park, and the elementary school teacher was really a pedophile, and another teacher in the middle school. Frick, this is a fricked up town. This will probably get buried, but it was a legendary rumor that I never really believed. When I was a junior, the principal's daughter was a freshman. The principal had 3 daughters, but she was the oldest and first to hit high school. It was a small town. There was only one high school and the principal happened to be the most successful basketball coach in school history and in this town. That was important. The guy could do no wrong. So the girl, by default, had a lot more attention than any other normal freshman girl. She was outgoing and nice and we were involved in athletics together, so we knew each other, other than me just knowing who she was like most of the rest of the school. The rumor was that this girl, the principal's daughter, made a sex tape with a popular boy in her grade when they were 13. Apparently the parents found the VHS tape and a few copies, and both families decided to destroy the tapes and leave the cops out of it, as it was a small town and both families were prominent in the community. This was all rumored, and if you asked the boy about it, he never answered the question. He never said yes or no, just found some sort of a way to change the topic. In hindsight, it was actually amazing how good he was at it, given that he was 14 at the time. But fast forward to senior year, I had known of the story for more than a year, like everyone else. And I regularly talked to the principal's daughter as a friend, and she didn't really seem like the type of person to do that, so I didn't really believe it. One day after lunch, sitting around talking, one of my friends starts playfully arguing with her about something and the argument escalated, and then he says, "At least I didn't make a sex tape when I was 12. Her response: "Hey, I was 13. Not a rumor in the traditional sense, but we had a Mr. and Mrs. Smith and a Miss Smith. Since the name was common, Mr. and Mrs. could have not been married to each other. We were all confused by it and joke Mr. Smith probably got confused and sometimes slept with Miss Smith. Mr. and Mrs. were married. Mr. was also sleeping with Miss. Mrs. died eventually and Mr. married Miss. The vice principal at my high school was addicted to crack. Turned out to be true and he retired early. Now, I'm aware that this has the making of a hilarious story, but it's not. He was the first man in his family to go to college. Black men in 1970s Texas didn't have many options outside of the army. He distinguished himself as an educator and he helped a lot of underprivileged students get accepted into colleges all around the country. Sadly, his entire family was killed by a drunk driver. Like many people facing a horrible and tragic dilemma, he turned to drugs. Fast forward to 1999 and there's a major drug bust in my town. The dude that was running the dope house ratted on the VP and several other high-placed individuals that ran my town. I'll let you guys form your opinions on the man, but I will say this. He never mistreated a single student in his 25 years as a teacher and now lives his life in solitary disgrace. One kid who was in my history class jacked off in a giant communal pump bottle of ranch dressing the upperclassmen all used. Was heard bragging about it in class, but nobody believed him until it got back to her teacher and they tested the dressing and lo and behold, jizz was present. Lots of scarred teenagers and lots of amused ones. That one of the kids had a famous pornstar for an older sister. I knew because I was friends with him. Still am. It's still weird to see pictures of her in their house after having seen her take it in the butt on camera. Okay, you can't hold out like that. Who's the famous pornstar sister? So at my school, the drama teacher worked closely with one history teacher who did all the tech stuff for plays, sound, lights, etc. They spent a lot of time together, and both of them were married. The tech kids, my friends and I, always joked about them having an affair, and it turned into a school-wide rumor. We never really thought much about it, and that was 8th grade. My friends and I went on to high school and forgot about it for 3 years until a few months ago when we saw the history teacher at a football game. We went to ask him how he was doing, and the freaking drama teacher comes over and grabs his hand. We awkwardly said, "Oh, that was true, huh?" He replied with, "Yeah, we've been going out for 2 years." We ended the conversation after that. So the rumor wasn't true when it first started but ended up being true. TLDR. 2 teachers spent a lot of time together. We joked about them having an affair. Forgot about it. 3 years later we learned we called it before it became true. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.